Look, there's so many things happening at the same time. Obviously, the election was a big catalyst here, and the markets have spoken, and you can see that that's been very positive for the market. We were watching on the way over here, right? Bitcoin ticking. We said, is it going to be 100,000 right now? And we remember the celebrations we had when it was at 1,000 and at 10,000, and now here we are, about to be at 100,000. And I think at some point, not too far in the distant future, we're going to be thinking about $1 million Bitcoin price. And really, it's just a confluence of everything happening all at once.
$1 million Bitcoin price. It seems unrealistic. I think it's became even more realistic with everything that we've seen take place over the past week or so. But that was Michael Bressler from X2B, which is a fund, ultimately talking about the possibilities or the inevitability, as he views it, of Bitcoin getting to $1 million. And I actually do think it's far within the realms of possibility. Ultimately, as we see continued proliferation of the monetary systems, which is an inevitability, Bitcoin really arbitrages that and was created for that entire reason. And this is a future that we're moving towards. Now, the interesting thing for me as somebody that believes in the future, Bitcoin dominance is likely going to get to around about a quarter of the overall space. Bitcoin at $1 million puts it at a pretty colossal market cap. Well, what does that mean the altcoin sector's market cap is? Just something interesting that many people kind of don't think of. We like to sort of play around and look at market caps. We've got an absolute jam-packed, and welcome back, guys, for another jam-packed daily market update. I want to kick things off with some tweets from Eric Balanchunas on the topic of Bitcoin, on the topic of what's happening with the space right now more broadly, and broadly led by the likes of BTC. This is, of course, US spot ETFs, now 98% of the way to passing Satoshi as the world's biggest Bitcoin holder. My over-under date of Thanksgiving is looking good. Thanksgiving, I think, is Thursday. I'm sure we'll be wishing you all a happy Thanksgiving. If next 3 days are like the past 3 days, flow-wise, it's a done deal. Also at 107 billion AUM. They only lag gold's ETFs by 23 billion. Good shot to surpass by Xmas. So also very interesting for me when we talk about how high can Bitcoin's market cap go. And we've got a number of price predictions for Bitcoin, of course. If it was to be at a sort of 309,000 price, what would the market cap be? It would be in the sort of 6 trillion-ish. Now, gold is 11, 12 trillion. And we've already seen the likes of BlackRock's products get more in Bitcoin than the likes of gold. So there's clearly that appetite and demand here and race towards Bitcoin. But this is interesting. We are witnessing a very hostile takeover. I'm going to do a long sort of walk and talk video where I talk about actually some of the things that I find very scary about what's happening now. I find it hilarious that you've got these so-called libertarians that really aren't. You know, they don't care about being a libertarian or any of the principles that come with it or freedom broadly. What they care about is getting rich, and they don't care who and to what end that takes place. Meanwhile, preaching about the freedom properties that Bitcoin brings. I think Bitcoin has saved many people from a destructive dollar. But is it the route to freedom? I'm not entirely convinced. Also, this is insane. So even the most insane week of GameStop's mania, which happened in the last bull market, couldn't come close to the week MicroStrategy just had. In 1 week, ladies and gentlemen, 136 billion. People are betting big on MicroStrategy. Why are they doing that? Why would they bet big on MicroStrategy? It's a Bitcoin trade. That's literally it. A leveraged Bitcoin trade at that. That's in volume, so that wasn't all inflows. He also has on here the chart Amazon. It also has never had a week like this either. So Amazon also doing quite well too. Very interesting, all the sort of things that are taking place. And on the back end of all this, while all eyes were on MicroStrategy, ETFs quietly ingested more than 10 times the amount of Bitcoin mined last week. Pac-Man mode activated. And this is all centering, and I think Satoshi understood this sort of more broader economic cycles and largely based the halvening around them. But with the halvening, you're now that new supply of Bitcoin onto the market got cut in half, and there's a insane sort of supply and demand balance that's going on that's certainly going in Bitcoin's price's favor. Also, we had news from digital asset fund flows from CoinShares that Bitcoin ETFs saw the largest inflows on record last week, totaling $3.12 billion. Digital asset investment products saw the largest weekly inflows recorded, totaling $3.13 billion, bringing total year-to-date flows to a record $37 billion. Bitcoin flows were about 3 billion of that. Solana outpaced Ethereum last week. I think Ethereum is dying. We could do a whole video on that. That's a very interesting concept. Certainly with the rise of these other layer ones that are just faster and better in pretty much every way. I feel sorry for the people that still believe Ethereum is ultrasound money. But what we're seeing, what we're witnessing across the board, and that's why I wanted to start on that clip of Bitcoin potentially going to 1 million, or somebody's thought on that, a hedge fund manager's thoughts on that. What we're also seeing is the insane accumulation of crypto. And again, we were largely expecting this based on technical analysis. We didn't know that the narrative, or we could have guessed perhaps that the narrative was going to be a Trump victory, but we didn't know all the things that have came out since then. And that's really what's propelled the price as far as the price is concerned on a big time frame. If you're not doing well, by the way, guys, from what's currently taking place, do consider becoming a Patreon and go and watch last night's meeting. I really put into perspective where the altcoin market is. But we looked at the big time frames, and we've continued to do that. We looked at a smaller time frame and a target that gave us. And that, of course, was met. And I do think you're potentially just going to set up continuation once again, certainly until you start getting some of these larger targets that we have ahead of Bitcoin. But our sort of big price prediction is 309,000. Of course, we've got 130 and 151 still ahead of us. To pivot into some interesting news, Teresa Goody Gulliam, who is essentially Trump's favored pick for the new SEC chair. Make the SEC great again. Make crypto great again. Under President Trump, transformative changes start on day one. The SEC must restore trust with industry and end regulation by enforcement. It's time to knock down needless obstacles, remove burdens, clarify crypto's rules, and promise innovation, protect investors and our place on the world financial stage, bring crypto back to the United States. You can imagine what's going to be coming on the back end of all of this. And of course, on the 7th of November, she tweeted also something, or the 13th, sorry, very interesting. US crypto and capital markets will thrive under President Trump. The public has loudly and cleverly spoken. Current Gov has a responsibility to serve the will of the people, government of the people, by the people, for the people, Abraham Lincoln. And we also have news that Hong Kong's ZA Bank is now the first to offer crypto to retail clients. There's going to be this arms race that's going on, and certainly from a technical point of view, the space looks pretty marvelous. Things are sort of pumping at different times. So we've had all the sort of American-based cryptos, if you will, doing very well, and now I think it's the turn, or you're going to see the likes of AI deep in. They're all going to have their sector. So there's a hell of a lot going on right now. Is Bitcoin going to $1 million? I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. We know that there's a new regime about to take hold that is likely going to propel this industry into the multi-trillions. It's already in the multi-trillions today. The market cap sits at 3.2 trillion. I think we're going into the high single digits and then potentially into the double digits, perhaps by the time this bull market's finished. There are questions that people can derive, like, are we going to still follow the cycle into the future? But we can cross that bridge when we come to it. Record inflows in regards to crypto products, which is always nice to see. MicroStrategy, which is a Bitcoin play, doing very well. A real institutional takeover going on, I think, broadly. Obviously, the new SEC chair is already hinting at what she's going to be doing as it relates to the industry from the sort of seat of the chair of the SEC. And Asia's now broadly entering the race. And from a price point of view, we didn't quite get to 100K. It's not going to be long, ladies and gentlemen. Ultimately, I think altcoins, a lot of altcoins, I always get the question, like with XLM, for example, people asking me if it's a good time to buy after it's made a 400% move. The best time to buy was pre the move, like what we were doing. I never really buy into after something's pumped 400%. Doesn't mean it's not going to continue to do so, but there will be corrections at some point. And trying to time the markets, I think, is dangerous. That's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. Thanks all for watching. See you all in the next one.